Tel Aviv is not the capital of Israel, or is it? Now, in a video, I did make the statement that Tel Aviv is the capital of Israel, not Jerusalem. And for full accuracy and transparency's sake, you can correctly say that that's an incorrect statement. I mean, after all, a country does usually decide what its capital city is itself, and Israel has definitely said that Tel Aviv is not its capital. However, they claim Jerusalem is their capital, and that is also not the case because it's not theirs to claim. And on top of that, they're not even the only people who claim Jerusalem as their capital, because Palestine does as well. And it's also not theirs to claim because the holy city of Jerusalem, according to the United Nations, is supposed to be an internationally controlled area that anybody can come and go freely from. So in 1948, 1949, when Israel was, let's say, established as a country, their original capital was the city of Tel Aviv. And then in 1950, Israel's like, you know what, we're going to make our capital Jerusalem now. And the rest of the world's like, no. Then in 1967, during the Six-Day War, Israel annexed East Jerusalem. And then in 1980, Israel passed the Jerusalem Law, which declared Jerusalem the unified capital of Israel again, I guess. And still, the rest of the world's like, brah, no, it's not. In fact, in 1980, when Israel did this again, the United Nations passed Resolution 478 saying that this declaration, this law, was a violation of international law. Israel's like, no, guys, it's totally our capital. We own it now. We're going to move all our government buildings there. And come on, everybody, bring your embassies and everything along. And every other country in the entire world was like, no, we're leaving them in Tel Aviv, where they belong. Even in 1995, when the United States legislation passed a resolution to move the United States Embassy in Israel to Jerusalem, we still didn't. And even though we will kiss Israel's ass on literally anything, we would still never take an official position acknowledging the capital of Israel being Jerusalem. Every 6 months since 1995, every president we've had has signed a waiver saying, yeah, that 1995 thing about moving our embassy, we're just not going to do that right now. That was, of course, until Trump and Nikki Haley were like, yeah, why not fuck up a long-standing foreign policy status quo with a controversial move for no real good fucking reason. But even since then, the recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital by the United States has been walked back by our foreign policy decisions under the Biden administration. So with the exception of Russia and maybe kind of the United States, no country on the planet recognizes Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Jerusalem is not recognized as the capital of Israel by the UN, the EU, or the OIC. Israel's claim that Jerusalem is its capital is a violation of international law. So all the countries in the world that have an embassy in Israel have it in Tel Aviv, with the exception of the United States since 2017, and let's be honest, our opinion on the matter has been less than unbiased. Tel Aviv is also the cultural, financial, and commercial capital of Israel. So for all practical purposes, Tel Aviv, as far as the international community goes, is the functioning capital of Israel. And Israel setting up shop in East Jerusalem is like you going into your city park and building a house and being like, this is mine now. And while this has been just the status quo, look the other way, don't rock the boat on this really for a long time, because Daddy America has special interests in that particular area, and we just sort of liked things the way they were, in light of the fact that Israel, the most advanced and powerful military force in the region and one of the most advanced and powerful in the world, using that world-class, powerful, and advanced military to blow up homes and neighborhoods and hospitals and schools and refugee camps full of innocent civilians in a third world city that's mostly children. I kind of feel like it's a little immoral and unethical to even humor the thought that the illegally annexed land that's been a hot button topic for this whole conflict since, ever, and is incredibly important, and also the claimed capital of the people they're going all Mr. Clean ethnic eraser on, is Israel's capital. Especially when you consider the fact that Israel, claiming this land as their own, refuses to give Israeli citizenship to people who were born there and whose families have lived there for generations upon generations simply because of their Palestinian ethnicity. They're required to jump through all these expensive legal hoops to live and work in Jerusalem. They have residency papers that allow them to live there, but Israel can take that away from them whenever they want, and they do. And the irony of the fact that many of the original citizens of Israel had first-hand experience with what it's like having your citizenship in your country of birth stripped from you and being forced to carry your papers around just based on your ethnicity should not be lost on you. So I say all that to say this. If you want to make the argument that me making the statement that Tel Aviv is the capital of Israel is technically incorrect, you have a very strong technical argument to make there, and I may be technically incorrect. And technically, I don't really give a shit, because their capital damn sure ain't Jerusalem like they say it is. So either it is Tel Aviv or they don't have one. Either way, it makes no difference to the points I was making originally. That said, I do believe that accuracy and transparency is important, so in that sense, I will acknowledge that Tel Aviv is also not technically the official capital of Israel. And my original statement probably should have been worded differently. And as always, I feel the need to end every video on this topic by reiterating, Israel is not a religion. It does not represent the Jewish people. It is a country run by a government. And Jewish people, both in Israel and around the world, are not in any way, shape, or form responsible for the war crimes that the government of Israel commits. In fact, many Jewish people, both in Israel and around the world, are vocal opponents to the atrocities being committed. And Hamas and their actions do not represent the people of Palestine. In fact, there's evidence to suggest that Hamas's rise to power was aided by Israel in an attempt to destabilize the more moderate PLO government that Palestine originally had. So no matter how you feel about Hamas, the Palestinians, and specifically the mostly children in Gaza, should not be held accountable for their actions, especially, with their homes and their lives. Please, don't blame innocent people based on their faith or their ethnicity or their heritage for what is going on there. And for the love of God, no matter who you are or what you believe, you need to support a ceasefire at this point. Because with all the information we now have, there's no logical argument, no matter how you feel, against it. And every hour we don't have one, more innocent people, more innocent children are displaced from their homes, living in fear, being injured, and being killed. Also, side note, because it's getting no attention, there's a whole war in Sudan right now with a genocidal militia that's like winning it, and it's killed like 10,000 people in the past 7 months or so. Yeah, that's something you should probably know more about and deserves more than a footnote in my video, but I don't know enough about it to really speak confidently on it yet. But you should at least Google that, because it's a thing, a horrible thing that's happening, like, right now. Anyway, I'm sure that the comments in this video are just gonna be a fucking riot. And if my takes on this topic bother you and you want to unfollow me for that or whatever, fine, do your thing. But if you do take anything away from this video, can it just be that we should all be able to agree that, mass killings are bad, and no matter how you feel about a topic or a situation, all of our first priorities should be that mass killings are bad and how we can stop that from being so mass killing-y. And then once we don't have all the mass killings happening right this moment, we can iron out the technicalities that we disagree on. Is that too much to ask in a situation like this? Because I feel like it shouldn't be.